We're now going to look at something that I'm going to say is a riff and an exercise brought together, and it utilises the exercises and the techniques we've just been working on. This was created by the guitarist Mark Tremonti. You might know him from bands like Alter Bridge and Creed, and he's also done a ton of his own stuff. Amazing guitarist. If I'm totally honest, it weren't the sort of guitar playing and style that got me into music and guitar when I was a kid. My background was more Nirvana, Pixies, Radiohead, early Green Day, but I always had a huge admiration for guitarists that could play in this way. And I had a ton of mates that were banging to Metallica, Iron Maiden, Pantera. I'd dabble with a bit of Soulfly, Machine Head, that sort of thing. But anyway, this riff or this exercise, I found it in a Metal Hammer magazine when I was like 13, 14. Mark Tremonti had said this was something that he'd written as a way to warm up, get his fingers going before he'd play a show or before they was about to rehearse or whatever. This was a little exercise that he designed. And I've always remembered it. It just stuck in my head because as much as I wasn't listening to tons of that sort of music, I took this as a really cool way to be able to develop my guitar playing. And I think that's so important. Never shut the door to different styles of music because there'll always be something you can take from it and implement into your own style and own development. So this is going to be really cool for stretching our fingers. It's got a good little slide in it, a tiny little hammer on and pull off section, and generally just very good for our finger independence. Also, a thing to highlight with this riff is it's going to be in drop D, which means we need to detune our lowest E string down to a D. I'm not too sure where you are in your awareness of tuning, but for those people that might need to know a little bit about it, I'm just going to briefly explain. That means that we need to drop our E string a whole step down to a D. One way we can do this is by using a headstock tuner, and we would just want to bring that E down until it becomes a D. Lovely. Another way we can do it, if we don't have a tuner, is we can use the A string to help us tune that lowest E string down to a D. So I'm just going to quickly demonstrate that. If I sharpen that E string again a little bit, if I play the 5th fret of the A string, that's actually a D note. I'd want that low open E string to sound the same as the 5th fret of the A, which it doesn't at the moment. So we would just bring that E down a little bit more. The more you do it, you'll get used to hearing what they sound like together, the E and the A string. And then once you think that's in a closer position, you check it again. And hear how they sound the same now. I can make that a little bit sharper. And we hear it's off. If I bring that down again, they're now sounding exactly the same. We've tuned that low E down to a D. That tuning is used loads in all sorts of music, but particularly in more of that metal vibe. It's got a real sort of chuggy feel to it. Sounds good. Okay, so let's crack on with that riff. We're going to start by playing the open E string, that's now detuned to a D, 3 times. And we're going to have our fingers ready to play the 10th fret of the E string with our 3rd, and the 8th fret of the E string with our 1st. And we go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 10, 8, 10. Once we've played that, we then go back to our 3 open notes, but this time we go 8, 7, 8. So all together. Go back to our 10, 8. And as soon as you've played that 10th fret, we want to slide our 1st finger to the 12th. Remember when we spoke about our stretching exercises earlier? A finger was covering each fret. That 1st finger's there waiting to go up to the 12th. You could even bunch it. As soon as you've played that 10th fret, 1st finger comes a little bit closer, slides to the 12th. All together. 8, 7, 10, up to the 12th. And when you get to that 12th, we go 12, 14, 15, and then 12th on the A, 15, 14 on the E. We work up and then back down, starting with the 12th fret of the A, 15, 14 on the E. When we play that 12th fret of the A, don't move your third and little fingers far away from the guitar. Keep them ready to play that E string, because we know we're going to go back to that. The further we move them away, the further we have to come back. We lose that fluidity that we're after. Excellent. All together from the top. Keeping that alternating pattern that we spoke about at the beginning, so that we're getting more speed, more consistency with our picking hand. Wrists nice and low, thumb center of the neck, so we can get a nice spread with our fingers. We then go back to the top of the riff. But this time, once we've played that 8, 7, 8, we go down to the 7th fret of the D. Our first finger's already on that fret. It just needs to move a couple of strings down. So nice, small little movements. And this is where a little hammer on and pull off takes place. Nice and simple. We did loads of that earlier. We can smash this. Once we've done that with the 2nd finger on the 8th fret, we bring our little finger up to the 10th fret of the A, and back to the 7th fret of the D. So that little section goes. Lovely little sound. Hammer on, little finger 10th for the A, back to the 7th of the D. So that second section all together. D. And now we have a little run back and run up on the A string. We're going to go 10, 8, 7, and then back up to the 10th. So we get our little hammer on. And there's a little 7th on the D and 10th on the A there again as well. Let's go from that hammer on and build it slowly. 10, 8, 7, 8, 10, 7th on the D, back to the A, 10, 8. See, when we're around this shape, I'm never moving my fingers too far away from the strings or the frets that they're going to need to use. I've pretty much got that 4 fret stretch going on the whole time. Even though that 3rd finger doesn't appear, or we don't need to use it on the 9th fret of the A, it's there to give me that stability and continue that stretch across all the frets that we need. And that is your whole exercise / riff. Cool. Nice and slow to begin with, but build that pace. It's one that sounds pretty cool once you start to pick up the tempo with it, but don't rush there. Don't get there too quick. Start nice and slow, gradually build it. Maybe use a metronome, like we did in our exercises earlier. Use that metronome, add a couple of BPM, and then over time, you'll slowly notice how much you're improving and how much you're smashing the speed of it. But just as another example, love that. And maybe just take little parts of it as well. I really like that little hammer on and rundown bit. You could turn that into its own little exercise as well. Right, let's crack on with some more exercises.